Mother. A word that means so much to a lot of people. To some, an incredible figurehead who raised them with all their love and passion. To others, a dark reminder of how cruel the world can be in taking those you care for. Those 2 points, and everything in between, Mother. I like to imagine this is what the word symbolizes, and is why we give such a meaningful phrase to the person we owe our whole life to. In essence, the world itself cannot go on without the existence of Mother. I bring this up because the games within the Mother franchise have very little to actually do with the main character's mom. The third game does give it plot relevance, but I don't think that is the point. Series creator Shigesato Itoi was inspired by the John Lennon song of the same name, giving the word a comforting feeling. Sometimes you just want to sit down and play a really grim game called Doom or Mortal Kombat and feel good about yourself. But in times of vulnerability, in that moment of emotion where you need something to latch onto and truly pour your heart into, Mother will save you. It's an endearing way to look at the title, I think. Now, why am I setting such a serious tone for a game about aliens and hippies? These 3 games are some of the most interesting pieces of video game art I have ever come across. Whether that's because of crazy ambition, wacky comedy, or something else entirely, these games are really hard to break away from. When you play through one, you just get a striking urge to play the others. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the worlds of each of these titles, and analyze what exactly makes them so special. I know they aren't perfect, but they definitely are made with an incredibly bright and burning passion. Before we go any further, let me address what version of Mother 1 I'll be using. I am playing the 25th anniversary ROM hack by Dragon de Platino. This is essentially the most refined experience of the game you will find anywhere on the market. Sprites and textures are redone to be more faithful to the original art, areas have been carefully expanded or made more straightforward, and the wild encounter rate has been lowered drastically. There's many quality of life changes too, such as party members not being met at level 1. Seriously, why was this in the game to begin with? Just like pretty much any other NES ROM hack, this is what I would deem to be the most definitive way to play the game. But this is my choice, and to each their own. Mother 1? Let's talk about it! There are many videos out there on Earthbound and Mother 3, but the original Mother has always been forgotten about in the larger gaming community. It also doesn't help that the main protagonist of its sequel star in some of the best-selling fighters of all time, but I digress.
Mean time for Smash.
What I'm trying to convey here is that many of the themes and tropes that the series is known for originated here. Obviously, an RPG set in the late 20th century. You play as the character Ninten as you fight off crows and dogs and snakes and fake zombies and real zombies and cars and aliens with your predictable protagonistic weapon, a cracked baseball bat. After your bedside lamp decides to throw shade and physically assault you, your quest begins. Time to find out what sort of freaky magic is causing these abnormalities and save the world, probably. Thus, you venture out into the world of Mother, set in the good old US of A. That's right, the game is canonically set in America. You won't be seeing any cherry trees, kimonos, or lawyers eating sushi. I mean, hamburgers, Apollo. It's really unique. Settings in RPGs at the time were all focused on carefully crafted fantasy worlds to help escape reality. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy displaying these gigantic worlds for players to get sucked into. Mother says, screw that, we don't need to make a world to explore, we're living on the damn thing. Don't get me wrong, there is still a blend of fantasy to be found here. Like, sentient lamps and dolls are literally the furthest thing away from real life, but it never manages to break any of its immersion. Quite the contrary, as the theming of Mother is one of its finest features, and its writing strengthens this even further. There's an underground maze full of lying monkeys about 2/3 of the way through the game, and it's like, yeah, why wouldn't this be here? These creatures spout all kinds of absurdities, but then there are some that are genuinely telling the truth and deciphering their odd speeches. It's just hilarious. While the world rarely gets as crazy as this again, many NPCs give relatively useful information about America and its sudden changes. Everything said is either funny or informative, and I love it. So many RPGs just use filler dialogue that amount to nothing more than, here's NPC number 527's family problems that you can do nothing about. Ha ha ha. The genius writing team. Probably. Now, hold on. Let's take a step back here for 2 seconds. I said relatively useful information, because for every NPC that sheds light on something relevant within the game, there's another that implies something that is completely made up. It's a common complaint that the writing is just as cryptic as progression itself, and sometimes the two even overlap. Take this part for example. I've just saved the zoo from an evil extraterrestrial and head back to see the mayor of the town to find out where to go next. But he straight up tells me he has nothing to give me when he was the one who gave me the damn quest. What gives? Thankfully, I remember the receptionist downstairs told me earlier she had a secret to tell me later. Maybe she is the answer I've been looking for. I talk to her and she asks me if I've heard about the girl with special powers. Okay, weird that she's asking me for the info, but in a way, I think I've got my next hint. I need to find a girl with mysterious powers. Noted. I also remember coming across 2 bridges that were guarded by police officers, so maybe they've cleared. One is still blocked, with the officers saying they need to wait until the mayor lifts martial law. But he won't even give me an answer, so what is going on? Okay, whatever. The police up north give a funny piece about a strange rock and let me pass. Rejoice! I make my way to the rock and use my telepathy on it, and it asks, "Where is the gem of God?" Aha! A similar line was said in Nintendo's great-grandpa's diary, so now I'm looking for the Tale of God. But where is it? This was the only new area that opened up, and all I got was a hint from psychically communicating with some stone. I go back to the guards, and they tell me that martial law has finally been lifted. Aha again! Now I can go south and cross the bridge. They even remind me that I can use telepathy, just in case I couldn't figure out what to do with that weird purple cone. And they said this game was cryptic. They're handing me the answers here. I frantically run down to the southern bridge to find the police officers still standing there, saying the exact same thing they had told me no more than 10 minutes ago. No one's to cross the bridge until martial law is lifted. What do you... It was lifted. The other guy said... So why would you... How can you still be... I can't! After frustratingly pacing around for 15 minutes trying to figure out what the hell I'm even meant to do, I concede and resort to a strategy guide and let out the most aggravating sigh known to man. I was meant to bring the diary with me to the stone as I used telepathy on it. Only then would Nintendo piece the puzzle together and I would move on to the next area. Looking back, I do think it was totally my fault. I had pieced the two together, but I should have known that the diary could have acted as a key item for this mysterious rock. But can you blame me for being confused? I was juggling all these different topics and hints and bits of information, half of which weren't even true, by the way! Okay, so the progression is a bit of a mess. But how's the combat? Early game... yeah, it's brutal. When Nintendo starts his journey, he is the last person ready to fight a Farmer Wally. Thanks to the cryptic progression, it's not uncommon for you to wander off in a direction only to fight an enemy 10 times your level. At one point, I ended up in a dark, spooky tunnel where I kept dying constantly, so I came to the logical conclusion that I was clearly heading in the wrong direction. When I resurrendered to a walkthrough, I was shocked to find that yes, this is indeed where I was meant to go. But not Not by walking! Are you serious? This is the 90s! We have train travel! Technically, this was the right way to go. I was just doing it wrong. Though I was persistent, and I eventually made it through the tunnel on foot as kind of a sequence break. That's actually kind of pretty cool. For the first 2 hours, honestly, the game could be retitled Bash Mash, because that is all you can do in starting areas. As you level up and learn new skills, the combat gains a bit more of a solid ground to stand on. You can apply buffs, debuffs, shields, area of effect attacks, recovery skills, and many more options. While the odds start off heavily stacked against you, they more than even out by the time you reach that bizarre rock I mentioned earlier.
Where is the
Well, obviously, that which the ship that soars the heavens abandoned. This is the land of Magicant. Let me just say, I love this area. It's mystical, it's creative, it's just strange. NPCs are funny, but surprisingly informative. Queen Mary enlightens you about the 8 melodies, which together form a song that is important to her. There's also a guitarist who gives a hint on where to gather these tunes, albeit near the end of the game, but for this type of JRPG, I'll take all the help I can get. While I knew prior to playing these melodies were needed to complete the game, I can see why others may interpret them not to be. They aren't stressed to be important as part of the main story, more so as an optional side quest. While this would normally be quite a negative, the upside is you can collect the melodies at any point throughout the game. Prior to reaching Magicant, I had already collected 2 of them, and by the time the guitarist was willing to help me out, I only needed 2 more. That's right, folks! As soon as you make it to the desert, you can collect the 5th melody by talking to the lonely cactus with a face. How totally fair and not obscure at all. By this point, gameplay starts to flesh out a little bit. Lloyd joins the party and becomes a very useful inventory expander. And that's about as useful as he gets, because his main gimmick for fights is the use of exclusive, consumable weapons. Rockets and bombs that decimate enemies with ease, for the measly cost of about $500,000. Alright, I take it back, the game is called Bash Mash again. Oh wait, no, we have another member in Anna, she joins a little later on, and she is well worth the wait. Although her romantic intentions with Ninten are questionably sudden, I can brush that off considering her strength in combat is second to none. A glass cannon who is made of really thick glass. While in some ways she's meant to be a dedicated healer, Ninten sort of covers that role just fine, so let her nuke the battlefield every chance she gets. With access to the most damaging moves in the game, whatever the other 2 boys can do, she does better. Let's see. Insane AoE damage? Check. Able to heal all party members at once? Of course. Her powers are just absurd. I mean, wasn't this game meant to be hard? Well, this far in, things started to get a little too easy. Firstly, Magicant is home to the best equipment in the game. That means about 2 or 3 hours in, you can put on some of the strongest apparel in the game and never need to visit a store again. I get that the items are fairly expensive, but if you've saved any bit of cash prior, chances are you can afford a couple of pendants or jackets. In contrast to the first half of my playtime, anywhere I went would just get steamrolled by the team. Well, by Nintendo and Anna, Lloyd was still worthless. Mob fights were a breeze, and singularly strong enemies? Pah! Don't make me laugh. The best they could do was hit me with a double attack. Ooh, wow, I'm so scared. It's like I'm fighting 2 enemies for the price of 1. What a bargain. But hey, at least my party had a weakness in the form of Lloyd. At least there was still a chance for the enemy to do some sort of damage to me. And just as I say that, Rocket Boy gets whisked away for the flashy gangster Teddy. This is a fantastic introduction to the character. He gets all up in Ninten's grill and starts throwing hands. It's very childlike, which, yeah, these are kids, don't forget that. They're out on an adventure. Where they'll end up, they don't even know. Maybe on a lone island up north. Maybe trekking through the swamps in the east. Or maybe slugging through a repetitive labyrinthian dungeon. Which really gets you into the mind of that childlike wonder. So many parts of the map are literally pointless, with their only purpose to annoy the player with the absurdly high encounter rate. But when that randomness is toned down through the anniversary ROM, It truly feels like I'm out on a quest, twisting and turning throughout the land of America, trying to find somewhere to go. This is going to sound really weird, but I would compare this adventurous feeling to the likes of Dark Souls. While their difficulty is comparable, so too is their adventuristic design choices. You might stray off the road for a couple of minutes, explore a tiny forest, and find nothing for your efforts. But it was kind of fun just to go in a random direction, you know? To see what this world has to offer, knowing whatever comes our way, we'll be able to face it head on with no regrets. Whatever threat this world throws at me, I will fight to my dying breath! Oh, like even this gigantic, super scary R7037 robot is nothing to me. Please don't hurt me! You know, I've been thinking, what does Mother 1 even do differently compared to other RPGs? You go on a quest to save the world, which involves a party consisting of magic and items, but what about Mother's combat, or story, really defines it? Aside from the America setting, what sets it apart from Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Fire Emblem? Though I love the PSI attacks, what differentiates them from regular magic-based attacks? PK Fire Alpha, Beta, Gamma and Omega, Fire, Fira, Firaga, Zeta Flare. What's the difference? Even in other JRPGs at the time, you could see the party perform these moves. In Mother, it's just swing, hit, swing, swing, heal, swing, smash, defend, swing. If the world of Mother can be deemed immersive, combat is anything but. From frolicking around bright, cheerful towns to blank, text-heavy number battles. Side by side, this looks like two completely different games, but nope! For better or for worse, this is Mother 1 as much as this is Mother 1. The game is infamously known to be hard, but I'd rather say it's inconsistent, which is worse. Its open world design gives no indication on if you're going the right way through difficulty, which poses a problem at many points. When you first reach Snowman, you'll encounter the wolf enemy, which is fairly strong, but if you're lucky enough, you'll run into 4 of these powerhouses at once! At this point, you've got to attempt to run away or else it's a game over. Later, you're required to be above level 25 in order to defeat the sleeping dragon boss to earn a melody, and you completely curb stomp him! The imbalance of challenge is ridiculous in this game. Also, what do these stats even mean? The one thing the overworld and battles do share is perplexing me. Oh, they go hand in hand! Like, offense and HP is self-explanatory, but what does the gut stat mean? Should I pop off when it increases by 7? What's the context? What's the usefulness? I picked up an asthma spray that specifically listed that it cures Ninten's asthma, and that never happened. Turns out, it's a rare status ailment that occurs when, according to a guide, hit by a car exhaust. What is the point in programming such a specific item and such a specific status effect? As charming as the game is, sometimes its attempt of bucking the trend ends up becoming a nuisance. NPC vendors are not stationary and move side to side while you try to interact with them. I get it, these are humans who work at a department store trying to make a living for their family. But for me, in real life, after my hardworking 9-hour shift, I just want to be able to talk to the damn guy with no hassle. It's just inconvenient. When you game over, make sure you don't waste your money at the hotel because you need to revive a dead party member at the hospital. Makes sense, but that doesn't restore PSI points. So where in the world restores PP? Why, the hotel, of course! You gain a teleport later in the game from a psychic baby. Just accept it, don't ask. And while it's definitely handy, it's not the greatest warping mechanism out there. First, you need a large strip of land to run on in order to build speed for your teleport. And for a game full of big empty areas of nothing, there's very few linear lines of space to gain this momentum. Second, you need 1 PSI point to perform the move. If you have none or you mess it up a few times, well, meet me at the hotel room for $180. Third, I found that I rarely had to even use it. There's never any development from earlier towns past their first visit, so the majority of the warps are just pointless. No extra side quests unlock and no special events occur. Basically, the warp is only useful to players who miss a few melodies throughout the adventure. I guess that's enough of a reason to include it. And you know, for a party of close friends, the trio rarely interact with each other, if ever. You'd think they have some nice moments together, but they literally never speak to each other past their introductions. Well, that's not entirely true. Aww. I really shouldn't think that two pixelated characters awkwardly stepping around each other is cute. But damn, I'm a sucker for a little love story. After this touching interaction, the team make it to the top of Mount Itoi, by far the toughest area in the game. As you climb up these coincidentally placed ropes, the source of Mother Nature's disturbance is finally revealed. This is Gigu. His story is a tragic one, of love, family, and betrayal. He is foreshadowed seldom throughout the game, but his power is feared all throughout the land. He hits like a beast, trash talks you from his spaceship, and even when targeted with the Super Bomb, a one-hit kill item, he shrugs it off like it's nothing. The start of this fight is built up so well, so it only makes sense that it ends up being a pinnacle for both gameplay and immersive storytelling. Right? Because for all your fruitful efforts, for all your monotonous grinding and relentless boosting of your guts stat, how do you beat this unsettling foe? By singing the melody. Over, and over again. Look, I get it. I 100% get it. Throughout this adventure, you've collected these important puzzle pieces that link in with the final battle. I get it, but for a final fight, for the ending climax, this just isn't enough. It really isn't. The build-up of this entire playthrough, an insane experience, falls flat on its face with one of the most one-dimensional ending boss fights, period. For its story, it makes total sense. But for my personal satisfaction as a gamer, nah, it doesn't work for me. You know, Mother 1 as a collective is many things. Some will say it is a withered piece of garbage that is nothing but a complete waste of time full of cryptic nonsense. Others will say it is a beautifully pleasurable experience that deserves nothing but a 10 out of 10. While I think both statements are extreme, I do tend to lean towards the latter. I mean, God, it's definitely not perfect, don't quote me on that. But I can't bring myself to hate a game that's fueled by so much ambition. I'm not an expert on the NES and its hardware, so I don't know how much of the game was limited in this regard, but I can see that the potential was there. A diverse combat structure complemented by this expansive overworld full of mystery. Shigesato Itoi's vision of a deeper story implanted into a dynamic battling system definitely didn't come to fruition with this title. But hey, I had pockets of fun throughout my time in the USA. There were genuinely some great moments and highs for this adventure. And if there's anything on this game's complex progression or insane difficulty that's stopping you from playing it, I wouldn't think of it that way. It's not a brilliant experience by any means, but I sincerely don't regret playing it. Luckily for us, this wouldn't be the last time we explore the world of Mother. With one game under their belt, the team at Ape Inc. knew what the Earth was bound for next. While this is the end of Nintendo's story, for Shigesato Itoi, this was just the beginning.